The Seattle Seahawks shocked most people last season, me included, who thought they were going to be a bottom-of-the-barrel NFL team. And instead, they made the playoffs. Geno Smith had a breakout season at the ripe age of 31, and now they head into 2023 hungry for more. Let's go ahead and discuss. And what's crack-a-lackin' is your boy Broshmo, just in case you did not know. So go ahead, become a bro and subscribe. Leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content as always. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Make your voices heard, 12th man. And let's have that nice, beautiful football discourse. But we're talking about the Seattle Seahawks today. We're going to go over the coaching staff, the scheme, and the roster. But stick with me until the end of the video because I'm going to give you my prediction on the Seahawks in 2023. But without further ado, let's get into the nitty gritty with the coaching staff. Pete Carroll here in what is this, year 13, year 14, being a head coach. And a lot of people thought that he was probably going to hang up the headset last season. A lot of people, again, me included, thought this team was probably on the verge of a rebuild. And Pete Carroll being one of the older coaches in the NFL, it was fair to ask, okay, well, is this cat going to stick around for a rebuild? I don't think so. But instead, he was like, nah, we're going to be competitive. Not only that, we're going to be one of the best teams in the NFC. And they were, in fact, that last season. Pete Carroll's done a fabulous job. If you don't remember him from his USC days as the head coach, that USC dynasty with Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush, it was a thing of beauty. He's been doing it in the NFL, man. He has really orchestrated a great squad here, a team that he's been through the years of the Legion of Boom, and even when they rebuilt, it never really felt like a rebuild. It was more so they were reloading and retooling, and that's just how it was last season. They drafted exceptionally well. They got a lot out of their rookies last year, and then they have a good rookie class this season, or this past draft, that we're going to go ahead and get into. But we're in year 2 of Clint Hurt as the full-time DC here, and now implementing his system, and I think we're going to see a little of Pete Carroll's old fingerprints. This is a cat that really loves his man coverage, whether it be in the Legion of Boom days, the Seattle 3, but I think he's going to have a hand in that because he's got the horses to do it. Bringing in Devon Witherspoon, having Tariq Woolen, I think he's going to want these guys in man coverage. They played a lot of quarter half this past season, so a lot. It was almost their base coverage. So I think they will try to switch things up here and there. But this is a team that moved from your standard attacking 4-3 to a more of a 3-4 defense, but this was a team that really tried to get after it they didn't really bring the blitz. They didn't bring an extra man, and they didn't do a lot of stunts. They didn't try to scheme up pressure. It was more so okay, hey, beat the guy in front of you. And they went out this offseason and they tried to add more guys that could help do that, and it could hopefully be more successful at that. Again, this is a team that was 31st last season in blitz, 15.2%. They were rarely doing it. So if that's what you're going with, you need to get the horses that can get to the quarterback, and I think they did that this past off season. More so, I'm actually very excited to talk about the offense because via the draft, this offense added one thing that was missing so much, and we'll kind of talk about this because I'm probably going to open up the roster with Geno Smith and just the year that he had and where he was very successful and where, okay, this probably needs to get better, because there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot with Geno Smith that was pretty unsustainable. I'm pretty sure I mispronounced the word, but you know what I mean. So there's a lot of that, and we kind of saw that in the second half part of the season where, okay, some of the stuff that worked early on isn't really working anymore. Shane Waldron basically for for all intents and purposes, his offense looks like a Kyle Shanahan offense. Team that ran a lot of outside zone and incorporates the inside zone and counter to keep defenses honest. So Kyle Shanahan-esque. He likes to utilize the play action, get it into the hands of his playmakers exceptionally quickly with a quick hit passing game. And that's where I think the addition of Jackson Smith and Jigba really will help open up things, because again, this is a team that really does like to attack deep, and they were exceptionally good at doing that. But again, attacking deep so often, it's gonna be inconsistent. At least you should expect it's gonna be more inconsistent than it was last season. But if you're able to get more out of your guys in the short to intermediate, guys that could create after the catch, that have that yak ability. I think they expected D. Eskridge to be that, who's suspended for like the first 6 games, by the way. I think it's first 6. I know he's suspended for the first part of the season, though. So they go out and get Jackson Smith and Jigba, who's also a phenomenal run blocker. At least I think he was a solid run blocker at Ohio State. Just to add that element that they probably felt like they were missing last season. I kind of get into it. They just didn't have that yak ability. So like they have good diversity in terms of pass catchers. And they bring in Charbonnet, who's just going to be mean in the inside zone aspect of this. So like it's going to be a fun year. I love the coaching staff. I'm kind of curious how year 2 will look for the defense. Where will this balance of Carroll and Hurt? Because to be fair, Carroll's a guy that trusts the coaches he puts in charge. Those things. He's kind of the CEO type at this point, but good defensive mind. So I mean, I expect him to have a little bit of his fingerprints on some of the stuff that they're going to do. But let's go ahead and get to the roster. But first, I want to give a shout out to today's sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is currently one of the most premier fantasy betting apps, and they got a best ball tournament with $15 million in cash prizes. So if you sign up at Underdog Fantasy using promo code Broshmo, they will match your first deposit up to $100. Remember, use promo code Broshmo when you sign up, and they will match that first deposit up to $100. They currently got Best Ball Mania going on, and they have $15 million available in cash prizes. So if you want to be a part of that, if you want to be a part of the best app doing fantasy football, then check out Underdog Fantasy. But as always, bet responsibly, my friends. Let's go ahead, get into this offense. I have them currently ranked 11th to 15th. They just barely missed my top 10. But man, oh man. Let's talk about Geno Smith, because Geno Smith, legitimately, he broke out after 10 years in the league, had a phenomenal season. Do I think he is the future of the Seahawks? No, but I think they got one hell of a bridge quarterback currently in Geno Smith. If this allows them time to, hey, let's go we could go find a guy. We could take our time, man. Geno's one hell of a quarterback. But Geno was, listen, like his numbers downfield, not gonna happen. Like I was looking at him, I was like, this is ridiculous. This man's adjusted completion percentage on passes of 20 yards or more, 53%. Typically, we're seeing guys in like the 35, 40%. If you're like, those are really good numbers. 53% is kind of ludicrous. It really, really is. But man, he was hitting it deep, man. 15 TDs on 20+ yard passes. Just ridiculous. And that's where all his big time throws came from. However, you did see when needing to like maybe check down or trying to attack more of the intermediate middle part of the field, he struggled. He did. His 17 turnover-worthy plays all happened on the intermediate part of the field. If you look at the intermediate middle of those 17 turnover worthy plays, 10. So yeah, he was kind of in trouble when having to go there, and it's just not a sustainable number. It's just not. I will be shocked if this man has an adjusted completion percentage downfield of 50 yards or more. And if you don't know what adjusted completion percentage is, basically they take out spikes, they take out throwaways, they take out drops. And it's just a ludicrous number. It really, really is. And I don't expect him to hit that again this season. But they add Jackson Smith-Njigba as this yak machine. A lot of people forget what he was in 2021 because he was hurt, had the hamstring issue in 2022, and he only played like 3 games. And we forget just how special that season was in 2021. Like, this guy was freaking phenomenal. I think he is like a Cooper Kupp type. Like, I think you can play him on the outside if you really want to, but he's gonna make where he's gonna make his money is there in the slot. You have Tyler Lockett, who is this just speedster that can stretch the field. DK Metcalf, who is just this mismatch nightmare. Insane size to speed ratio with DK. Last season, both of them had over 1,000 yards. Both had 8 or more tutties. You love to see it, but they didn't have like that. They didn't have the yak ability from those guys. Both only had, like, combined 12 forced missed tackles. And I think JSN, there we go, is gonna have that by himself. Like, he is that yak. He has that yak ability for him. They also have Noah Fant there, who is just really good athlete, and you kind of hoping he can just have this breakout year. But he is very solid. In general, Will Disley's always been pretty good for them, as well as a pass catcher / blocker. So, like, they got the weapons, they got the arsenal. Like, for me, it was really JSN. He kind of puts it over the top for me, but they even have more weapons if you look at the depth. As remember D. Eskridge, who's kind of this explosive, speedy type. He is suspended for the first, let's say, 6 games. I think it's 6 games. Don't quote me. But he's probably going to be like the wide receiver 4 here. Though I think there are a couple of guys that maybe could warrant more playing time, as Derek Young, who was a very good special teamer last year for the Seahawks, a former 7th round pick from the 2022 draft. Dude's going to make the roster just, again, what he can do on special teams. Maybe he could vie for a bigger role. They have Kay Johnson, who was someone I really liked coming out of South Dakota State. And he ends up falling, being a UDFA, because I think probably a lot of people just kind of looked at him as slot only, which that's fair. I think he was. But he's a very shifty route runner, someone who can actually, if you go to 4 wide receiver sets, you can work with that. You can work with him. So that's going to be interesting. They list Cody Thompson here as the as a potential backup here. Though I kind of got my eyes on Matt Landers, who, another dude who has very good size. He's like 6'3", 205, maybe 6'3", 200. Coming out of Arkansas, 6'4", 200. Coming out of Arkansas, testing insanely. I remember him at I don't think it was the NFLPA Bowl. I think it was the Hula Bowl. But he had one day of practice, and it was phenomenal, man. He was the guy everyone had their eyes on, and he opts out for the rest of the week because everyone and their moms assuming we're going to see this guy at, like, the Shrine or at the Senior Bowl. And I think he does eventually show up at the Shrine. I can't recall. Draft season feels like it was a decade ago. But tested exceptionally well, had solid enough numbers in his final year at Arkansas. So man, I would love to see that cat make the roster. You can make a case for Justin Marshall out of Buffalo, who turned around, who garnered a lot of eyes on him. 6'1", 227 pounds. I didn't realize he was that thick. Very good test, and does look more like a big body vertical speedster. But man, watch out. If anything, he's going to the practice squad. Aesop Winston Jr., kind of a special, he's just a slot guy, but like coming out of Washington State, he was playing in that air raid. But I would give the edge there to Cade Johnson regardless. Looking at the tight ends, like Colby Parkinson has kind of been like low-key a mini monster, and he's going into his contract year. And still, it's wild. Still here listed as like the tight end too. And I think you can make a case he should be the starting tight end for the squad. He has been a solid blocker for them. He's got good size at like 6'7". What is he, like 240? 251. He's up to 251. Oh man, sign me up. But he has been really good for him. He had over 300 yards last season and 2 tutties. But like him being able to be a very good blocker for this squad, like low key, like he might go and make good money in free agency just with his upside. Like it just feels like this team hasn't really featured him enough. He's able to kick out and be like a big slot if you need him to. What was his missed tackle rate last year? He had 28 receptions. Did nothing as a missed tackle guy. But still, man, that size is just bonkers. I don't think we really need to talk about the other tight ends here. Tyler Mabry, he saw like no time last season. Couldn't tell you if that was injury, just him being low on the depth chart. Looking at the running backs, Kenneth Walker, he's your basic running back route tree, but he's just so difficult to bring down. That was one of the big traits I loved about him at Michigan State. That's why he was my running back 1 in the 2022 draft. But basic running back route tree, but he's got just good explosiveness, very shifty feet. So, I mean, I don't think he's going to do anything extraordinary in the passing game. Zach Charbonnet, like bigger back, but low key, like better receiving upside than you would expect. I think they will fall on guys like DJ Dallas, former U player, the U baby, or Kenny McIntosh, who, if you're around for draft season, or if you've been around the channel for the last couple of years, I've been one of the biggest Kenny McIntosh marks out there. He didn't have the best testing numbers, but like I've seen this guy. He is explosive. He is a solid route runner. He was one of the lead receivers for Georgia, and this dude's coming out of the backfield. He brings return experience. I'm kind of like excited to see how often they use him, and I feel like they're gonna go deep into their running back rotation. Especially with the pickup of Zach Charbonnet, who is like we could talk about what he's gonna do in the running game, because that's gonna be a big part of it. But they're gonna dip into like Charbonnet on these inside zone. You got Kenny McIntosh, who's gonna be a really good maybe outside, though he played a lot of inside zone under Monken at Georgia. So, I mean, that kind of works out. But regardless, like the running back room here is really solid. But if we're looking at like from a passing standpoint, I look at Dallas, I look at Kenny McIntosh, who, golly, man, fell to the 7th. That's just kind of wild for me. So I don't think Geno replicates what he did last season, because it was just kind of ridiculous. But I don't think he's going away. I don't think he's going to go back to me and it's like, oh yeah, he's just kind of a high level backup. No, I think he's one of these like middle tier quarterbacks who, if everything is like everything around him is good, will have this team competitive, have this team in games. So I am excited for that. Going back, taking a look at the offensive line, Charles Cross, Abraham Lucas, they had a pair of rookie tackles out there, and they played They played ahead of expectations. They really, really did. And you can make a case that Abraham Lucas actually outplayed Charles Cross. But there's no denying for like Charles Cross, he kind of has the upside. He's got the movement skills. So, but I mean, Abraham Lucas, man, just was exceptionally solid. I was shocked that he was available, at the back end of the third round for the Seahawks in 2022. I thought he was the best tackle at the Senior Bowl during that year. And he was someone outside of just being a tall tackle and like struggling to consistently get leverage. I was like, man, this guy's a top 50 prospect for me. And he ends up falling, and year one looks phenomenal. So him and Charles Cross, these are two guys that have really good movement skills as well. So like they're just a good fit for the system in place here. A team that likes to run their outside zone. Damian Lewis actually took a good step up last season, both mainly as a pass blocker. I was pretty impressed with him. So you're just looking at those guys to continue to get better. Phil Haynes is kind of been like the sixth man on this offensive line, and now he will step up into a starting role. And he's like the worst player on your offensive line, but like I would say he's like a middle of the road, kind of an average starter. So if that's the worst player on your offensive line, you're gonna feel good about your offensive line. They bring in Evan Brown, who I think you can actually say could be like the worst player on your offensive line. Like very good run blocker, very good run blocker. Still putting it together as a pass blocker, and I mean he is like a suboptimal pass blocker. So it's going to be very interesting what those two do this season, and it's not like they have someone who can start in place of those guys. I don't think there really is as of right now. I don't think it really is an open competition there at center or at right guard, but I think those guys are fine enough. If anything, I am a little worried about the passing game when they go against these teams. When they go against a team like the Niners, who their interior, just monsters. You got Eric Armstead and such. So it's like, I'm Aaron Donald against the Rams. So it's like, or with the Rams. So it's like, I am a little spooked about that. Looking at the depth, because I said I don't think there's anyone that's competing as of right now. Because you got Oluwata Timmy. I think he could be a plug and play, but there are certain aspects you want to probably develop before you have him be a starter in the NFL. A very good inside zone blocker there for Michigan. Does a good job of climbing to the second level, plays with that barium mentality. So I really liked the pickup. You have Anthony Bradford, who a lot of people were high on, and I mean, Hail Mary Sports, Alex, he was pretty high on him too, and I was like, yeah, I think he's fine. He's like this mid day 3, late day 3 guy. He ends up going in the 4th round, and I'm like, and I know like the general draft community that were really liked him, and I didn't quite see it, but like, I don't know, man. Like Damian Lewis, they've pulled from LSU, so maybe there was something there that they liked in him. But outside of that, like they got Stone Forsythe, who is just been a backup and just wasn't good when on the field last season. So it's like, are you kind of hoping he's developed to a point where if injury happens, he can be on the field and not be a liability? Jake Curran, I think he's kind of bounced around the offensive line a little bit. Let me pull up, because I know he played guard. Did he play a little center for this squad? No. He's basically bounced around from tackle and guard. But I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of him coming out of Cal. I thought he was one of like the less impressive players at the Senior Bowl. I believe he was at the Senior Bowl there. Same there with like Dan Moore. I wasn't that impressed by Dan Moore either. I could be thinking of other Texas A&M guy though instead of Curran. Can't remember off the top of my head, but I mean he hasn't really done much when called upon. Joey Hunt ain't great. It's just they're honestly, you're just kind of praying and hoping injury doesn't happen. And if it does, like the one spot be like Aluwada Timmy, man. I think he's probably the most ready of the bunch there to kind of step in and try to help the squad not miss a beat. They do have Jalen Martinez, who is a developmental prospect, someone who has like all the tools. I was very impressed with him at USC in terms of just like his athletic ability, his length, his physical tools, but just never really clicked with him. He kind of bounced between tackle and guard, I think, at USC. So I'm kind of curious where he has developed thus far. But I mean, again, that's kind of like unproven, and you're taking a dart throw. So it's like, yeah, the depth's not entirely great, but I have confidence in the starters there. Even if I'm not like that high on Evan Brown or like Phil Haynes, I'm just kind of like, yeah, he's kind of mid, but it is what it is. If he is the worst player on your line, you're kind of in good shape. But I think there could be a case made that Evan Brown might be. Though, again, I think Evan Brown's a much better run blocker. So, I don't know. We'll see. They have Nick Bellore, who operates as the fullback. Really, just a really good special teamer for this squad. But they have the running backs. They have the horses. Like Kenneth Walker, phenomenal last season. 50 forced missed tackles on a little over 200 carries. They bring in Zach Charbonnet, who's kind of like he's big. He's very much a north-south runner. Kenny McIntosh, who's got that explosiveness to him. I think one of the things I thought he needed to work on was his vision. So maybe someone that's not going to get a lot of touches as a running back and just more so used in the receiving game. DJ Dallas has been a solid committee back for the squad. They do have other depth in the form of Saradrick Thompson out of Texas Tech. I think he's a bit of a long shot, but he does feel like a solid enough committee back. I couldn't tell you about Bryant Koback. Honestly, I have no idea who he is, but hey, props on him for making an NFL squad. Actually, this is kind of wetting my palate a little bit. I want to know more. Coming out of Toledo. Okay. So he's from last year. He spent time on the practice squad of the Vikings. So interesting. I don't know, man. There's a name I'm unfamiliar with. Maybe I go back and look at some Toledo tape. Honestly, I actually really like low-key. I love watching the Max, so I ain't against it. All in all, I feel good about this offense. I don't really feel like they're in that top 10 status, but if they end up being a top 10 squad, then shoot, man, Geno's just killing it deep then. But they also now have the yak ability, so there's a little bit more faith underneath. This squad was just missing that yak target, and they have it in Jackson Smith Najigba, and I'm very, very excited. Let's go ahead and move to the defense. And I feel like this is pretty high. Like, I have them as a 11th to 15th unit. I don't think they're a top 10 unit because the pass rush I'm not sold on. Though they do bring in Draymond Jones. They have a couple of young guys there as pass rushers that they're kind of hoping works out. I don't know. We will see. I'm, again, not entirely confident in the pass rush. But I love that they bring back Bobby Wagner. I love the draft pick of Devon Witherspoon as that other starting outside corner. Because I think Michael Jackson's like fine depth, but I don't think he should be a starter. They have Julian Love. If you remember, Kobe Bryant also played pretty well for them in the slot. Julian Love can play safety though, because I mean, do you expect Jamal Adams to be healthy? So Jordan Love might get a lot of snaps there at safety. Like all in all, man, like I think there is a lot of potential fun to be had with this defense if certain players take certain steps up. But let's go ahead and start with the defensive line. I said the addition of Draymond Jones. He's more of this penetrator. He isn't going to be a very good run stuffer for this squad. They're really going to be hoping, because they really don't have a player that can play nose outside of Byron Moan, who how many games did he play in last year? Moan. He played in 13, and that like if they are looking for kind of a space eater, like I mean he's kind of it. That's about, like, they have Cameron Young, but it's not like Cameron Young has a big body. He's more of a like 304, but like the dude is strong, coming out of Mississippi State there. I get why they probably, I wouldn't have taken him that early, but I get why they go after him. Just trying to look at Byron Moon real quick. He had about 135 snaps there in the nose, but I mean the dude's a massive human being, so they're kind of hoping he can stay healthy and be that space eater. But it looks like what they really wanted to do is get after it. I mean, they bring back Jaron Reed, they sign Draymond Jones to be that penetrator. They draft Derek Hall to kind of be this like why, like I really thought like Derek Hall's like, man, you get him in like a Y9 alignment, because like might not be the most flexible or bendy guy, but in a straight line, like watch out. Like he was very effective in that regard. So like them drafting him doesn't surprise me. They had a very raw prospect in Boye Mafe, who I think currently is listed as a starter. So, I mean, let's go ahead and just talk about some of the depth here. But Boye Mafe, who was developing his final year in Minnesota, but wasn't completely ready, I would say, for the NFL in terms of just being a technician. And he just didn't have that refinement, didn't have that polish. So it'll be interesting to see what he does here in year 2, because he is exceptionally explosive. And they are listing him as the starter on our lads. So that's going to be interesting. But Darrell Taylor, I think Taylor's fine as a rotation player. I know a lot of Seahawks fans love them, Darrell Taylor, but I think he's probably more of a rotation player. He isn't exactly very good against the run. So we'll see. Derek Hall can be. I think Derek Hall is probably he's going to be heavily involved this year. I really, truly do believe that. I didn't even mention Nwosu, who he's he's more than just an edge too. And because that's how I felt about him going into last season. I was like, you know what? Like, he isn't like a top 15 edge rusher, but like he is definitely a starter, man. 62 pressures, 10 sacks last season. So like very solid in that regard. I am again kind of curious how Boye Mafe kind of develops, because if anything, he's also going to be a guy you probably want to use on early downs, because he is a better than you would expect run defender as well. So like the rotation they'll have there on the outside is going to be very, very intriguing. If we're looking at more depth that they have there, maybe on the outside, Levi Bell, he was the Texas State cat, right? Yep, coming out of Texas State. I feel like he's more of a gritty type of player. So I'm kind of curious if he even makes the roster. Tyreek Smith, though, I thought he was someone who may not have had like the highest ceiling, but he had a high floor and could get after it coming out of Ohio State. So wonder how involved he might end up being. But then we're really getting into depth there. Looking at more of the depth on the defensive, like interior, Mike Morris, who very strange, like I felt like he was going to probably be someone that they want, that was going to move more to the interior after kind of being used more as an edge player for Michigan. He was playing at 290, comes at the combine, weighing at 275, and then just has terrible testing numbers, which led to his fall. He goes in the 5th round. I think I still had him as around like mid 4th round grade. Because, I mean, what you saw on tape, man, it was still pretty impressive. So I like that they're listing him here along the interior. Mario Edwards, good pickup. Can he stay healthy? Solid depth there. I kind of mentioned Cameron Young, but they list him at nose tackle. I don't feel great. Obviously, that's Byron Moan. That's the spot you want him in. They got Roderick Perry, man, out of the U, baby, the U. Long shot to make the roster, but I think he's good depth. We can move to this linebacking core that I love the addition of, like bringing back Bobby Wagner, who I don't want to say it's like he's never lost a step. It's like I feel like he's just savvy. You know, this is a very high football IQ individual. You will hardly ever find him out of position, and he's still one of the best linebackers in the league. And I love that he's coming back to Seattle after where was he at? He was in LA last season with the Rams, who just bombed. And he was like, "Well, I made a mistake. Seahawks, I am reading chasing a little bit. So let's see what we can do." Jordan Brooks, man. Jordan Brooks, it looks like he will be ready in time for the season this year after the ACL. I think it was an ACL injury from him last season, like late last season. You could correct me on that, but I still think like he's not all the way put together in coverage. Like he's more of a detriment than he is just kind of like neutral. But I mean, learn from Bobby Wagner. That'll go leaps and bounds. But Jordan Brooks, he is a very he's hard hitting, very good run defender. So I definitely think he can continue to develop. But in terms of they bring in Devin Bush to kind of be that guy in coverage. Then again, I really like him as a blitzer more so. Ben Burr, Curvin, we haven't seen a ton of, kind of just a guy at this point. Christian Young, UDFA, that name sounds familiar. Let's see, out of Arizona. So yeah, no, was Christian Young the safety? Yeah, no, he was the safety. So they're moving him to linebacker? Oh, I kind of like that. I'm kind of curious. Does he even make the roster, though? Oh, I like that he's moving to safety or moving to linebacker. I feel like Patrick O'Connell's a little bit of the same. Nope, he's not. Couldn't tell you about Patrick O'Connell. But I do like bringing in Devin Bush, and because he is, I would say he's probably the best athlete they have currently at linebacker. Right here, let me switch it over for y'all so y'all can see who all we're talking about. I mean, Ben Burr Curvin's been with the squad for so long, but it would be super fun if Christian Young made the squad. Probably ends up being on the practice squad though. So let's just talk to the secondary. Secondary is freaking impeccable. I love it. Tyreek Woolen. I was shocked that he lasted until the 5th round. I had him as a day 2 player. I thought he was gonna need more polish, but in terms of size and speed combination, I was like, man, you want to kind of bet on those traits. And it ended up paying dividends for the Seahawks as he was just absolutely nutty. And I could see why they would probably have him as kind of the why would you deploy a quarter half with him playing that quarter, being able to play his respective side, because it's not like, I think at least where I noticed where he lost at the Senior Bowl was, okay, the more shifty guys that are trying to take him across the field, he kind of got, he's just more linear than he is laterally. But man, no, he ended up being really, really good for the squad. How many picks did he have last season? Let me pull that sucker up. He had like 6 interceptions, 10 pass breakups. Just absolutely nutty. And now they add Devin Witherspoon, who just flies around the field. He has that nasty to him to be a very good run defender. He was a guy that was consistently around the catch point, and he will stick in the hip pockets of wide receivers. It's just a great addition. They add Julian Love, who play split time between safety and the slot for the Giants. There we go. Just a really good addition, and I think is a very nice failsafe if Jamal Adams does get hurt. Because I mean, like looking more at the depth, you don't lose much. Considering we haven't really seen Jamal Adams last couple of years, but you don't lose much if it means Kobe Bryant is stepping back in as your slot, because you're having to move Julian Love to safety, because Kobe Bryant was really good last season. Like looking at his numbers specifically, he had 4 pass breakups. The completion percentage a little high, but I mean when you're playing the slot it is going to be high. But 4 forced fumbles. It's kind of a ludicrous number, and so I don't think you lose too much, again, because it's kind of a question mark. What do you have in Jamal Adams? Is he still the player that he once was? Because if he is, man, this defense is going to be freaking ridiculous. I do like Michael Jackson as depth. Trey Brown, bit undersized. That's why I kind of thought maybe he gets moved to the slot, but Seattle had no problem playing him outside. And he's been... Not last season, because I think he was banged up, but the prior year, I thought he was fine enough, and he's good depth at this point regardless. They bring in Artie Burns, who's just a journeyman at this point. He's kind of depth for the sake of depth. They have Chris Steele, who's coming out of USC a year ago, who was more of this, like, I think his, like, ceiling in the NFL is probably, like, cornerback 4, cornerback 5. So he's there on the roster. They also bring in Arquan Bush out of Cincinnati, who's kind of this like slot safety guy. Really, I think the cat to watch out for is Ty Okada. Love that last name, Okada. He's the Rainmaker. Coming out of Montana State, who's definitely someone to watch. He was just a ball hawk at Montana State. So maybe long shot to make the squad. He makes the squad is probably via special teamer. But he's coming on as a UDFA. They have Joey Blunt, who I liked out of Virginia, who is this just another cat that just kind of like flies around the field, good range, but really hasn't been able to stick on a roster. I say stick on a roster like he's been in the NFL like all of like 10 years, and I think he's only been in the NFL for like 1 year. But like he was a UDFA for a reason. Jarek Reed the second is actually the guy I'm looking at, who they drafted out of New Mexico with the Lobos. I loved this cat. Like, yeah, the size isn't great with him. Let's pull it up real quick. But he flies around the field. Phenomenal special teamer. 5'9", 196. But in this type of defense, man, like if injuries really, really do hit, like then if he has to step up and play, man, I think he can play. Like for me, it would not shock me if he ends up making the roster. Quandre Diggs, I feel like he's a lot of risk and reward. And last season it just kind of paid off a lot for him. What was his numbers. 4 interceptions, 3 pass breakups. But he's really good. He's really solid. So if he goes down, like, I guess it would be Reed who you want there as a deep safety. But again, that's really if you're playing more man. If you're playing this quarter half, then yeah, I guess the half falls on you. But I don't know. We'll see. It's good. I think it's very intriguing. I think they got good depth. They have good versatility. I don't know if they're really going to be playing Devon Witherspoon there in the slot early on. I think more so. I think the better option is, if Jamal Adams is healthy, is Julian Love. Like, you gave money to Julian Love, I feel like he's going to be a starter, whether it's at safety, whether it's in the slot, and like, you don't have to start Michael Jackson. He is good depth, and that is fine. That is A-OK. But yeah, I am a fan of this defense. I think they will take that next step up. Very curious how the pass rush looks this season. Bringing back Bobby Wagner is kind of huge there with Jordan Brooks, and then you sprinkle in a little Devin Bush, and I think you just got a very, very solid roster. All right, let's go ahead. Get to the reason why everyone's here. Talk about my predictions for the Seattle Seahawks. As I got them going 10-7. I feel like that's kind of safe. I think their current over and under is 9.5. No, it's probably 9.5. Let me just go confirm that real quick. Blah, blah, blah. But I have them, again, being kind of 50-50 against winning teams, but against losing teams, 6-2. They're getting it done more times than they're not. Am I completely in on them as a team that can take on that upper echelon of the NFL? No, I'm not completely sold on that, but they are going to be an exceptionally good squad. All right, I finally got the number up here. 8.5. Oh, bet the Seahawks. Wow, people have the Seahawks taking a step back like that? That's wild. 8.5. Oh, I'm betting the over on that. But let's go with the game by game. They open the year with the Rams. I think the Rams offensively could bounce back this season if they can stay healthy. But defense, they're still a mess. They really are. It's Aaron Donald putting the team on his back. I think they could probably beat Detroit early. Remember, Detroit was much hotter during the second half of the season. Got them beating the Panthers. Giants, and you get an early bye too, which I think is like, it's fine. I guess fine. It is what it is. But I got y'all losing to the Giants before going into your bye. Again, the Giants were a team that I thought overachieved massively last season, and I think they can do it again. They got very good coaching. Kind of sucks that you come out of your bye and you face the Bengals at home, or you face the Bengals in Cincinnati. That kind of sucks. Not to say they can't get it done, but it's just not ideal. Speaking of division, I have y'all going 4-2 in the division. Do I have the... Well, to be fair, like, the Rams and the Seahawks always play each other very well. So I probably gave the Rams a win. Yeah, I gave the Rams a... Okay, we'll talk about it when we get there. No, I'll talk about it right now. I gave the Rams a win at home. They're also coming off their bye. So they're coming off and hopefully are more healthy than they were the week prior. So I feel like if you're going to lose one there, it's like, if you're going to, like, I feel like that just makes sense. But have y'all losing to the Ravens? I think the Ravens are going to be really, really tough to beat this season. I just talked about them just this past Saturday. So if you want to check out that video, I'm really high on the Ravens. Got y'all beating the Browns, though. There you go. Beating Washington. Again, I have y'all splitting with the Niners. Both you and the Cowboys come off like a mini bye, so just an extended week of practice, that's the best way to say it, extended week. But you have to go to Dallas. Getting the Eagles down the stretch kind of sucks. Getting Tennessee down the stretch, who are, again, Mike Vrabel, he's gonna have that team competing, but I have y'all winning that. It's kind of like, it's the same thing. Like, having it, like, Tennessee, they're going to be vying for a playoff spot. Mike Vrabel always has his team competing. you can literally echo the same thing about Mike Tomlin, but maybe by tenfold, because he's been coaching, he's been coaching a little bit longer, much longer actually, than Mike Vrabel. So like Mike Vrabel was an assistant at Ohio State, while what you could say like 5 to 6 years earlier, like Mike Tomlin was already the head coach at Pittsburgh. So, but regardless, those are two teams that are going to be tough to face down the stretch. I got y'all winning both those, and then you get to close it with the Cardinals, who I'm curious what they'll be doing with Kyler Murray at this point. I mean, you have to go to Arizona. You might have to face Kyler Murray, but I don't think that roster is very talented right now. It's young. They do have talent in certain regards, but it's young and it's not very deep. It's very unproven in some aspects. Like, all in all, man, like, I feel like the losses make sense. I mean, if you want to be like, hey, they beat the Giants, then cool. Like, them going 11-6 won't surprise me. I think this is a team, probably their ceiling might be like 12 wins. I feel like that's fair. I don't think they fall under 9 wins, because I don't think the schedule is like that crazy. And I think they've added enough talent. Like, this is a very impressive looking squad. And remember, I do these deep dive series based on not power rankings, but based on draft order. And I think this means I have y'all getting out of the first round. Hold on. Let me check this. I want to see how I have these playoffs. Yeah, I have y'all making it out of the wild card, and then losing actually to a team you already, I have y'all losing to in season. So woohoo. Could that be the Niners? Could that be the Eagles? Could that be could that be the Cowboys? I haven't talked about the Cowboys yet. So I don't know, man. I don't know. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. That's it for the video. Go ahead, do that YouTube thing as always. Until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.